Welcome to Lecture 10. Today, we will be continuing the topic of gestures. Now to start with, there in your notes, I believe it's under letter E, let's begin by talking about the three planes of gestures. The three planes of gestures. Number one, you have the first or the lower plane. The lower or the first plane. Now this plane of gesture, okay, what's a plane? If you think mathematically, a plane is a horizontal area. Now, there are three horizontal sections of gestures that we're going to talk about today. The first section is called the first or the lower plane, and it's anything that is below the waist. So if you find your hip bone, that's your waist. Any gesture that takes place below the waist. Now, what would go well in this plane? Well, in this plane, if you're making a gesture below the waist, again, below that hip bone, this could show hell, this could show disapproval, could be rejection, putting down, or disgust. How would we show those? Well, for hell, we'd generally put heaven up and hell down. That's what we know about them. And so if you're gesturing about hell and in torment, if you talk about Lazarus and the rich man, right? The rich man was in hell, and in hell, being in torment, he lifted up his eyes to Abraham's bosom, right? Okay, well, we're going to put hell down here in the first plane. This is the right place to put hell. If you want to show disgust, ew, it was disgusting. It was nasty, right? You're going to kind of show the palm away from you because the palm was wherever you would put something, okay? So if something was disgusting, you're going to put that away from you, but you're also going to put it down because it's beneath you. It was something you want to do away with to show disgust. A rejection would be similar to disgust. If you want to move away from something, you're going to kind of take a step back, put that palm away from you and in the first plane. Putting down, again, to suppress into the first plane and disapproval. Okay? These are all gestures that can take place in the first plane. However, for the most part, you should strongly avoid using gestures in the first plane. Last class period, we talked about 1/3 gestures, 2/3 gestures, and 3/3 gestures. Gestures that come from the wrist, elbow, and shoulder. Now, similar to that, we talked about the wrist is the weakest, and it goes up from there. It's not exactly the same with the three planes, but there is certainly some crossover. Most of your gestures should not take place in the first plane. Pretty much the only gestures that should take place below the waist are the ones that we just listed. There's a few others, but basically the ones we listed comprise all of the gestures that should take place in the first plane. Now then you have the middle or the second plane. The middle or the second plane. And this plane consists of the area between the waist and the shoulder. Between the waist and the shoulder. This is the middle or the second plane. Now, what gestures would go in this plane? Well, this plane is our widest. This is where we have the most wingspan, the widest area of reach. And this is where most of your gestures should take place. This would be a good area for a welcoming gesture. Welcome to the class. We're glad you're here. This would be where you would affirm something. To disagree, well, I don't know about that. I'm not sure. To show direction. The door's over that way. The window's over this way. To contrast. Remember we talked about contrasting, to compare, to contrast. These are all gestures that would take place in the middle plane, and almost any gesture that you list would also go here in this middle plane area. Okay? This is where most of your gestures should take place. And again, think about getting those gestures away from your body. Because further away from your body is going to be bigger and more direct, generally stronger for your audience. Our third plane is the upper or the third plane. This area is that which is above the shoulders. Above the shoulders. Now, what would we put in this plane? Well, we would put heaven here. We talked about that briefly. We know heaven's up. So if you're referring to God, referring to deity, referring to heaven, you probably want to put that up here in the third plane. Praise, excitement, power, or anger. How would we do praise? Well, praise is generally you're giving onto the Lord. So that's why you'd have your palm away from you and then up into the third plane. That would be praise. You're giving onto the Lord. If you're asking for him to bless you, again, that's from deity, but that's going to be maybe with the palm inward, coming toward you from the third plane. Excitement goes up here. A few class periods ago, we talked about Brother Shetler and how he shows excitement and energy toward his presentations. Now, generally, he does that both by his tone of voice, what he says, and his gestures. Put his hands up here in the third plane, and he'll say, "Hey guys, you've got to get this. This is just the coolest thing," right? And he brings his hands up here into the third plane, and he shows, "I'm excited about this. Get some energy for it, guys. This is something you need in your life." He builds that excitement by using the third plane, by using this upper plane. You could also show anger. Strong emotion belongs in the third plane. Defiance, rebellion. Again, strong emotions or objects of deity belong in the third plane. Don't neglect the third plane. It can be used strongly and to your benefit. Although you won't use it for most of your gestures, it is a great plane for you to use as it builds strong energy or shows strong emotion. So feel free to utilize this third plane. Now, what are some specific gestures? I gave you guys a side quest over these 7 days to be thinking of gestures and building your gesture repertoire. What are some specific ones that you've thought of so far, that you've studied, that you've added to your gesture dictionary? Well, here are some that you might want to study and that we can study from a textbook perspective. Letter E, the meaning of specific gestures. Number 1, palms up. Palms up. This suggests giving. To give, you would turn the fingers away from you and push away from your body to give. Again, you can put anything you want in an open hand. So this would suggest giving. You could have receiving, the fingers up toward you instead of down toward someone else, to receive. To appeal. May I? You might put your fingers out for that. For friendliness, welcome. It's a welcoming area. Or for doubt. I'm not sure. Now, don't get this wrong with doubt. Sometimes we think, sometimes doubt tends to confuse students, and I'm not sure why. But if you're thinking about doubt, what's the natural gesture that you would have? What's the natural thing that comes to mind? Think with the words, "I don't know." I don't know. I'm not sure. Pastor, I'm not sure why we didn't have that prepared. I'll make sure we have it ready for next time. Right? Those hands up and fingers turned away from you shows doubt. Next, after the palm up, we have the palm down. This suggests benediction. Now, a benediction is where you're praying over someone generally or giving a blessing. Now, to do a benediction, often you'll have palms down to give a blessing. Bless you for that. Thank you so much. Okay, this is showing them giving. Think of an arrow being drawn from the back of the hand through the front of the hand. This is the case almost any time you have an open palm. Okay, there's an arrow from the back to the front. This is toward someone else. This is toward me. This is away from me. There's an arrow that extends through your hand, pointing in the direction of your palm. And so, if you're going to give a benediction to bless someone, okay, you can bless someone from yourself. Oh, thank you so much. Bless you for that. You can pray for the Lord to bless them. Lord, please be upon this congregation today. Okay, a benediction is with the palm down. Okay, this will be calming. Okay, calm down, calm down. It's okay, take a breath. Disapproval. No, I don't want that. Or rejection. Again, that's going to be with the hand away from you with the palm down. Number 3 is a vertical palm. A vertical palm. This suggests cutting off, forbidding, eliminating, dividing. Okay, we talked about dividing away. Precision with the fingers pointed down in a vertical palm shows great precision. Or indicating a direction. Again, the door is over to your right. You're going to indicate a direction with a vertical palm. Number 4, the index finger. The index finger, or pointing, suggests scolding, warning, or pointing. Now, sometimes, again, you can use it to indicate a direction, but most commonly it's going to be either scolding or warning. What's the difference? Well, scolding is going to be a pointed finger in a vertical or downward slant. This is going to be a scold. A warning is going to be with this finger turned up. Don't go there. I told you not to do that. You're in trouble now. Okay, that's, again, the finger slightly downward shows scolding, slightly upward shows a warning. Now, you don't want to overuse the index finger again because it does generally have strong negative connotations. Number 5 is a clenched fist. A clenched fist. This suggests strength, force, opposition, anger, defiance, passion, or power. Strength, force, opposition, anger, defiance, or power. There's a reason why the communist symbol generally includes a clenched fist to show the power of a united people. It's what it's supposed to show, right? Whether or not that's the case with communism, I think most of us would disagree, but hey, that's what they're trying to communicate with the clenched fist. Letter F, the coordination of gestures. The coordination, making them work together. Number 1, gestures must be in harmony. They must be in harmony with your message. Don't accidentally put hell in the third plane. Okay, it's not where hell belongs. Hell belongs in the first plane. Make sure that your gestures align with your message. Number 2, the larger the audience, the bigger the gesture. The smaller the audience, the smaller the gesture. If you're talking to a friend of yours and it's just you and a friend, you're not going to have massive gestures, or probably, hopefully not, right? It's going to be a little bit too much. If you're in a classroom with just 6 people, sometimes they have a very small speech class on campus that's in a smaller room and just like 6 to 8 people. Well, in that classroom, I'm going to have gestures that are about this size, okay? They're not going to get much bigger. But if I have a full classroom of 30 students in a large room, or if I'm preaching to the entire student body, I'm going to make sure I bring my elbows further away from the body, that my gestures become bigger, because you need bigger gestures with a bigger audience. Your gesture will get diluted with the number of people and the size of the room. So if you're in a big room, or if you have a large number of people, you must have bigger gestures to match. Okay, you have to learn to match the delivery to the setting and the audience. It will differ. Number 3, gestures must always be appropriate. They must always be appropriate. Game symbols, trending greetings, dance move references, etc. These all depend on the audience and often should not be included. Your gestures need to be appropriate. Now, again, this does depend on the audience. If you're a teen group leader, there might be gestures or whatnot that are appropriate for you to give in a presentation that would be confusing or inappropriate to an older generation, and vice versa. So make sure that your gestures are appropriate, and as in general, you want to err on the side of safety and stick with more traditional gestures and movements. Okay, letter D, bodily action that hinders. So we've talked about what's good, what helps. What are some bodily actions that hinder? Bodily actions that hinders the effectiveness of a speaker. Number 1, poor posture. Poor posture. What is poor posture? Well, having your feet too far apart, shifting your weight from one side to another. Again, this is something many of you will struggle with, is shifting your weight either side to side or forward and backward. Okay, this is poor posture. This will distract your audience. Letter C, the crossing of your legs. Again, that's something that mostly girls will struggle with, but crossing your legs either at the ankle or at the knee as you're speaking will put you in an imbalanced position and will make it more difficult for you to take a step that you need to take. Letter D, leaning backward with your weight shifted away from the audience. Why is this important? Why does the direction I'm leaning matter? Well, if I lean backward slightly like this, and again, it's harder to see over camera. In person, you would be able to notice this, but if I'm leaning backward away from the audience, it shows a level of disinterest and disengagement. If, on the other hand, I'm leaning slightly toward the audience, slightly toward the camera, it's showing an interest and a passion that's there, an intentionality. If you were on campus and you were called into Dr. Getch's office because you had gotten over 50 demerits or something, and you were called into Dr. Getch's office. When you come into his office and you take a seat, Dr. Getch is going to read you and respond accordingly. He's taught me this when teaching me about how to have student meetings. He talks about how if a student comes in and they sit down on the chair and they sit leaned back in the chair in a relaxed position, Dr. Getch is going to scoot to the front of his chair and lean forward onto the desk. When he does that, it helps the student to recognize, hey, straighten up, listen up, this is important. Helps the student generally to shift their position back to more of an interested position. If the student comes in and man, that student's just nervous and so worried about this meeting with Dr. Getch, and they come down, they sit on the front of their chair, they're leaning forward, Dr. Getch is going to move to the back of his chair and lean back to put the student more at ease. You want to have that balance with anyone you're meeting with, and in the same way, you can utilize this to your advantage in public speaking. One day, Dr. Getch was preaching, and he had driven through the night to get to this preaching engagement, and he was tired. And this was many years ago when he did this the first time. He's utilized it since, but he was tired, and on accident, as he was preaching, he went down and put his hands on his knees and kind of stood at the edge of the stage and leaned forward like this. What he found was that most of his audience leaned forward in their chairs toward him like he was calling them into a huddle. Utilize that to your advantage. As you lean toward the audience, your audience will reciprocate that intentionality and will give you a higher degree of interest. So you want to have a slight lean toward your audience. Do not have a slight lean away. It may be imperceptible to most, but it will carry meaning to your audience. Number 2, distracting movements. Distracting movements. Number 1, or letter A, looking at the floor, ceiling, or out the window. Looking at the floor, ceiling, or out the window. The audience will always have a desire to look where you are looking, unless, of course, you're looking at them. If you're looking at a stain on the ceiling, they're going to look up at the ceiling with you. If you're talking and you're thinking about something and you just glance down to the floor and, well, guess where your audience is going to be? You're distracted by someone walking by the door and looking through the window, which can be distracting. Well, your audience is going to look back to see what's distracting you. Make sure your eyes are staying in contact with your audience or referring to your notes. Letter B, hands in your pockets or playing with something in your pockets, such as keys or coins. Okay? If you put your hands in your pockets and you're kind of playing with something in your pocket, your audience is going to wonder what's in your pocket. Okay? It's going to distract them. For me, it's going to make me think. It always brings to mind a line from The Lord of the Rings, what's in his pockets is, right? What's in his pocket? I'm wondering, what's there that he's got? Is it a coin? Is it a quarter? Is it a penny? Is it a nickel? Is it a pocket knife? Is it a tie clip? Is it a hanky? Okay, what's in their pocket? Now, to avoid your audience being distracted by that, keep your hands out of your pockets. Now, there's more than just one reason to keep your hands out of your pockets. It's also, with your hands out, it allows you to communicate, because your hands will communicate. If you have your hands in your pockets, it's going to be really hard to make a gesture. You're kind of just going to be standing there and talking, which is not nearly as effective as if you're giving meaningful, intentional gestures to your audience. Letter C, fingering buttons or clothing. Again, maybe you have a button you like to play with. Maybe it's grabbing the edge of your suit coat, or ladies, the edge of a long sweater. Make sure you're not having a distracting movement. Letter D, tying in with this. Playing with a ring, bracelet, or a watch, okay? Maybe it's a ring that you like to twist around and around and around your finger. Yes, it's a circle. Yes, it will keep twisting and never stop, but it'll distract your audience. For me, sometimes I like to adjust my watch. And my wife actually asked me about this the other day. She was like, why do you all of a sudden sometimes just like hold your hand up and flick your hand around? And I said, well, it's because I like to have my watch in a certain spot. If I have my hand down and it's too far down, I can wiggle it up or I can wiggle it back down. And this is something I'll do. But if during a presentation I'm constantly going like this, well, it's going to become a distracting movement for my audience. The same can be true for adjusting your glasses. Now, that's something that some of us with glasses really struggle with. If your glasses are coming down, okay, I need to adjust them. Well, Do you really? Do you really? Can you leave them as they are? Now, there are times when you really need to adjust them for your own sake, or else you're going to be very distracted. But you don't want there to be a repetitive motion that you do again and again that becomes distracting for your audience. Number 3, wearing inappropriate clothing. Wearing inappropriate clothing. Now, with this topic, know that it can go in either direction. You can be overdressed. More commonly, you'll struggle with being underdressed, but it is possible to be overdressed for a presentation. Now let's look into this a bit more. Letter A, poor color combinations or poor pattern combinations. What are some pattern or color combinations that don't work that you can think of? Obviously, maybe some different kinds of stripes or stripes in different shapes aren't going to match very well. Some colors just don't go together. You want to make sure when you're getting up to present, you want to err on the side of neutrality. Now, some of us have very unique personalities. However, when you're engaging a large audience, you need to put some of your weakness away so that you can be more persuasive to the audience as a whole. This is biblical, where the apostles say, I'll be all things to all people, so that if I might by some means win some. Okay, there are times when you need to put away your cowboy hat or put away whatever unique aspect you have in order to better engage your audience. Personally, growing up in Alaska, I grew up wearing a bolo tie. I grew up loving my cowboy hat. Now, I know people think of those as Texas things, but yes, we also have them in Alaska. But when I came down here to California, I left my cowboy hat in Alaska. I left some of those things behind so that I could better minister here at West Coast Baptist College. Remember that as you're getting up to a presentation. Not only do you need to look nice, but you need to look appropriate for that setting. Letter B, bracelets or earrings that jangle. Okay, sometimes this goes especially for ladies. Okay, and so speaking specifically to the ladies in the room here, sometimes you can have those big kind of charm bracelets that make noise as you move or that are flashy. Get rid of them. Do not wear one of those bracelets to a presentation. Sometimes you have big earrings that honestly look like fish lures. Okay, I think they're maybe called spoon earrings, which coincidentally I think is what you call the fish lure that looks like that. But those big earrings that kind of catch the light and turn, don't wear them to a presentation. Wear what would be considered moderation. Okay? Yes, it's great for you to wear earrings to a presentation, but don't wear big flashy ones. Wear a simple ring in your ears. Wear a stud earring. Wear something that's not going to draw the audience's attention away from your face and hands. You want the attention to be on your face and hands. So if there's anything that's distracting from that, cut it out. You don't need it for a presentation. What you need for a presentation is to be effective in communicating the truth that you have to share. And as Christians, that truth is most commonly God's sacred message. Next, letter C, we have wearing inappropriate clothing for the occasion. Wearing inappropriate clothing for the occasion. Now, you can wear a Hawaiian shirt to the luau. That's the right thing to wear. Here, a week or two into the college semester, the fall semester at West Coast Baptist College, we have a luau, which is a Hawaiian-themed meal and events for the students. And it's perfectly appropriate and even desirable for the faculty and staff to show up wearing Hawaiian shirts, even for the speaker to be there in a Hawaiian-themed shirt. But that's not appropriate for a student to come to class in. It's not appropriate for a student to go to chapel in. It's only appropriate in that setting. There are many other illustrations we could give of this. If you're at a teen camp, let's say, and you're going down to the ball field, you're going to play a game, you're going to play Steal the Bacon. Then after you play a round of Steal the Bacon, you're going to give up and you're going to give a 20-minute challenge. Or maybe you're on a hike and you're going to climb this mountain, and at the top of the mountain, you're going to give a 20-minute challenge. Well, if you're doing that, it would be distracting to your audience if you're wearing a suit and tie, because you're overdressed for the occasion. They would think, how did he get up here in that? Did he change into that? Is it dirty? Did he get it dirty? How much is it going to cost to clean that? No, you want to dress appropriately for the occasion. Now, in most instances, we're going to accidentally end up underdressing rather than overdressing. So in general, you want to dress up more than you are, but there are instances where you can overdress. Just make sure that you're dressing appropriately for the occasion. Before every presentation, you should ask a series of questions. You should ask where, when, to whom, for how long, on what topic, and for what purpose. As you ask those questions of the person who has asked you to present, has asked you to speak, you'll better understand the circumstances and better be able to prepare your presentation for the audience. Now, here as we finish Lecture 10, you're going to move into your assignment for the second section of our notes. In this assignment, you'll be doing a 3-minute pantomime, a 2 to 3 minute pantomime, okay? 2 to 3 minutes here. This performance must be of a person who is doing some kind of task. For example, it could be of a policeman who's responding to a 911 call at a house. What is a pantomime? That's the big question we need to get out of the way. A pantomime is a presentation that does not use words. Okay, this is you acting out a story. You're acting it out and the audience should be able to guess what you're doing. Now you need it to be interesting, you need it to be engaging, so make sure in this you're not boring your audience. Make sure there's going to be interest there. But for 2 to 3 minutes, act out a presentation for the audience to enjoy, to understand, and for them to walk away with something. How are you going to accomplish that? What's your presentation going to be? As you decide what presentation you should do, a tip is to choose something that you have personal expertise or experience in. Now, some of you are great at sports, some of you are great at other things. Personally, what I did when I was in my speech class is I had, before coming to college, I'd worked as a firefighter for several years. And so in my speech class, I did a pantomime of pulling a hose off of a fire engine. And that's something that I had done hundreds of times before. I knew the details to add to make it real, and so I was able to do it thoroughly. As you prepare for your presentation, you can choose anything you want. But if you choose something that you have some expertise in, it might make it easier for you to clearly communicate to your audience. Now, for this assignment, your grade will be based on the following factors. Number 1, your approach. Your walk to and from the speaking position. Make sure the camera is far enough back that we can see you approach the speaking position. You should have a chair within sight of the camera. And you stand from the chair in the way we discussed, gracefully rising, approach the center of the camera, give your pantomime presentation, return, and sit on your chair, all within view of the camera. If you need to turn your phone or camera that you're using into landscape mode to accomplish that, please do so. But we should see your approach to and from the speaking position. Please include a chair. Number 2, connection. Was the audience engaged with you? Did you command their attention? It's hard to do with a pantomime, but you can do it. Command their attention. Number 3, actions. Both covert and overt actions should be discernible. Number 4, movement. Your feet should not be nailed to the floor for this assignment. Now, the one exception I've given to that was to a student who took that and ran with it and gave an entire presentation on his feet being nailed to the floor. And it was hilarious. He did a great job. But as a rule of thumb, in a pantomime presentation, you want to be moving around as you present. Keep our attention. Facial expressions. Your face should be communicating your message. This is huge for this assignment. Make sure before you present, practice having big facial expressions. And then as you give a pantomime, since you don't have words, have really big facial expressions. Number 6, gestures. These are essential for this assignment. Can you portray meaning without words effectively through gestures? And number 7, harmony. Was there harmony of body movements, gestures, and facial expression that was in sync with your message? Also under harmony, I want to challenge you on a few topics. One is to make sure that you're facing the audience. If let's say you're doing a pantomime on cooking. If you're doing a pantomime on cooking, don't put the kitchen sink here and your cupboards here. Do your entire cooking with your back to the audience. That wouldn't work very well. We can't see you. Since it's a pantomime, you can make things up. So because of that, put your kitchen sink here and have your kitchen in a corner pointing toward the camera. So when you're accessing the cupboards and the oven's over here and then the kitchen sink's here and you have an area to roll out your bread dough here, make it so that you're always able to face the camera to some extent as you do your pantomime. Just put an invisible wall between you and the camera if you need to. So face the camera. The second important note is treat invisible objects as if they were real, because your audience will notice if you don't. In a pantomime, how do you answer a phone? Like this? No. This isn't how you hold a smartphone. And a smartphone is basically what all of us will be using nowadays. When you answer a phone, you'd probably reach back to your pocket, pull it out, and you'd probably hold it like this. Probably hit the accept button, hold the phone up to the side of your face. This is how you would answer a phone. And then when you're done, don't just let the phone disappear. Put the phone back away. If you're baking, don't just pull out the flour and set it where the sink was. You wouldn't set the flour in the sink. You pull it out, make sure you set it on the counter. As you scoop the flour out into the bowl, don't just, on the last scoop, let go and move to something else. Well, your scoop just disappeared. Things can't just disappear. Put your scoop back in the bag or in the sink, and then put the bag away. Make sure that you treat invisible objects as if they're real. I'm looking forward to watching and grading your pantomime presentations.